and let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen. In the name of the one who has given us many, many earthly blessings in life, not the least of which is our mothers and godly women who influence our world. There was a woman who spotted her new neighbor out front raking the leaves. And she had wanted to go over and introduce herself sometime to those new neighbors, and she thought, well, that's a perfect opportunity. So she did that. She went over to chat, and as they were over there, the two women were talking, and two children came out of the house. And they were the nicest children you'd ever meet. They were mannered and polite, and they even shook the lady's hand and introduced themselves. And after they went back in the house, the person said to the new neighbor, she goes, "You have the nicest children." She goes, I'd give my life to have a couple children like that. Then the new neighbor looked at her and said, "That's exactly what it takes. That's exactly what it takes." It is very true that behind many a polite, happy, well-mannered child is a mother who has been there to correct, train, and discipline. And it's also true that behind many energetic and successful man, there is a woman who has been there to love and support and to encourage. Today, of course, is Mother's Day in our country. Mother's Day is not an official church festival on the church year calendar, but it's good for us every so often to take a look at the role of wife and mother that God has laid out in Scripture and rejoice in the blessings that He has brought to us. So it's very appropriate for us to join with the rest of our country and celebrate wives and mothers. And as we do that, let's consider on the basis of Proverbs 31 the theme, Thank God for Godly Wives and Mothers. Let us do this in an age where people haven't really praised and honored this position all the time. Let's do it at a time where there are even some people who have asked a mother at home, "Is that all that you do?" And today let's give them the godly honor that they deserve. As we look at Proverbs 31, maybe a couple disclaimers first. They say to preachers on Mother's Day, beware. Preacher, beware. There may be some out there who did not have that ideal of a mother. There may be some people who have a rough time on Mother's Day. Maybe mother's sinful nature or mother's selfish nature, maybe many days that reared its ugly head and they have not so good memories of their upbringing. Maybe there are some out there who had a mother die at a young age and they wish they would have known their mother better or had more time with her, and Mother's Day again is kind of a painful experience and it opens up some wounds. Maybe there are some people who are wishing they had children, hoping, and Mother's Day is a very difficult day for them. Or maybe there's even ladies who wish that they could find that man and get married and start their family, and God hasn't had that in the cards yet, in their life yet. Maybe there are some who have a broken family, a dysfunctional family. Or maybe there are some who, God forbid, have lost a child. Maybe Mother's Day is very difficult. But we would have to admit that no matter what stage or station of life that we talk about in a sermon, there's going to be something in a sinful world that can open up wounds. Our intention today is not to open up wounds, but rather to thank God for a Christian institution that He has set up. And since we rejoice in that, we can rejoice with the many people of our world who have been blessed by a godly wife and mother. Let's look first of all at the characteristics that this person possesses. In verse 10 it said, "A wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life." What is the first characteristic of the godly wife and mother? She is a faithful spouse. She is a faithful, godly spouse to her husband. After all, that's why she was made. If you think back to the first couple, back in the book of Genesis, what did God say when He looked down and He saw Adam? He said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. The general rule is that man desires a companionship, and the Lord created who to be that perfect companion, emotionally, physically, psychologically. He created a woman, presented her to the man, and he was very joyful when she came. She is a blessing to his life. She is an encourager. She benefits him. She cheers him, and she loves him with a constant love unlike anyone else in his life. And she's trustworthy. He doesn't give a second thought when he leaves the house in the morning. He knows his faithful wife is at home, supporting him and supporting the family. Then in verse 15, it says something else about this godly woman. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her servant girls. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. This woman is also, secondly, a diligent provider for her family. Yes, she's a provider. She's the one that's there for her children. And I think we can't read those verses without being struck at what a hard worker she is. Oh, the stories the house could tell. If that house could talk, the stories it would tell about her and her activity there. Her tireless work keeping the family members up and running on easy days and some difficult days too. All the effort put into keeping the house a respectable place to live, a clean place. Oh, the stories the house could tell about the countless loads of wash done and folded, working hard to clothe her family. Countless diapers changed, countless baths given. Oh, the stories the house could tell about late-night dishwashing sessions and other cleaning when everybody else had gone to bed. The stories it could also tell about late-night nursing, as there perhaps had been a sick child in the home, and mother got up and tended to a child and was praying and working for a fever to go down. The stories the house could tell about her decorating it and making a house a home. And the stories that house could tell about the food, the countless suppers that were put on the table, and people perhaps just expected that it was going to be there again. Whatever she does, she works at it with all her might. And yet verse 25 also says, and when it comes to the future, she can laugh at the days to come. Not only is she a hard worker, but looking ahead, she's not a worried person. She's not anxious. She's carefree. She knows that the days to come will bring what the days to come bring. There's something else with this woman too. In verse 20, it also says, she extends her arms to the poor and her hands to the needy. Not only does she think about her own family, but this woman also is a worthy member of society. She is also concerned about those in her neighborhood and in her community, especially those going through a tough time. And then finally, it also says in verse 30, it says, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. And verse 26 says, she speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction is on her tongue. This is the most important one of all. This godly woman is a faithful teacher in her home. And by her actions, her beautiful, lovely life shows Jesus. Her beautiful life shows her Savior that she knows and that she believes in. Not only that, but she tells Bible stories to her children. She teaches them. She teaches them songs that also glorify the Lord. Little kid songs at first, and then more advanced ones as they grow up. And she expresses her faith in the Lord, not saying things like, oh, I sure was lucky about that. That was fortunate, but she speaks about the guiding hand of God that's in her life. This is her true beauty. And then in a real jaw-dropping verse at the end of this section, it says, many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Think about that for a second. There are many noble, worthy things that a woman could do with her life. There are many things. But this is going to be the most noble thing that she will have done when her time on earth is over. Isn't this a great picture for the ladies today? Isn't this a wonderful picture? Or is this perhaps a bit depressing? Maybe this is a bit discouraging because there might be some women today who think, I'm not Superwoman. I'm not this woman. I don't do all those things perfectly. And I have failed many, many days. Maybe there's been many days that you've struggled with your calling as a wife and a mother. Maybe you've had some frustration and said, boy, is this all there is? I don't think I'm influencing this world too much, and have had a narrow view of your influence. Maybe there have been some days where you feel you haven't been a blessing to your husband and really haven't been supportive enough of him. Maybe when it comes to your relationship with your husband, maybe there's been some days where you wonder if he'd rather be married to somebody else. Or God forbid, maybe there have been wives who have not been faithful to their wedding vows to their husband. Maybe there also have been days where the family has suffered. Maybe the family has suffered because you were gone for a longer period of time than you really should have been, and you noticed it. Or there was that time you forgot that event on the calendar. You just forgot it. You dropped the ball. You didn't write it down, and someone got upset, and it was your fault, and you let that child or your husband down. Maybe there have been some days where you had the TV parent your child more than you were. Maybe there's been a day of laziness or disorganization that painfully showed itself. Or that day where you were impatient, where that temper flared and you had to tell the children at the end of the day, don't you act like that. We're not supposed to do that. Maybe there have been days where you have not been teaching your children those Bible stories and truths of the faith. Maybe some days where you were more worried about swimming lessons and sports clubs than in the devotion at the end of the day or praying before supper. Maybe there have been some days where you haven't been so carefree, but rather were worried pretty much. And maybe there have even been days where you haven't considered your role as wife and mother as the most noble thing that you could do. After all, there aren't a lot of women on the front of magazines because they have the title Godly Wife and Mother. No, when you go through the checkout, there are women's pictures on those magazines for different reasons than that. But as we think about all that, we then have to thank God. We have to thank God for forgiveness. We have to thank God because when he sent his son Jesus, he went to the cross to die for all those sins of shortcomings and failures of a wife and a mother. He died for them all. As we said last week, the guilt is gone. Put it aside. Let it go, because the Lord Jesus paid for it. He took it away. And he rose again on Easter Day, as we celebrate in this Easter season, so that we could have forgiveness. And thank God also if you have more chances to serve as a mother and a grandmother and to be that godly influence. There's one other angle that our reading looks at today. Not only does it talk about the characteristics that this woman possesses, but it also speaks about the honor that she deserves from the family members. It said in verse 28, her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. She deserves something from her children. She deserves their praise. And the children rise up, they praise her every day, right? And they show her affection every single day. And they give her obedience every single day. Even when she is older, they still respect her and they want to care for her. In 1 Timothy 5 it says, if a widow has children or grandchildren, these should learn first of all to put their religion into practice by caring for their own families and repaying their parents and grandparents, for this is pleasing to God. In her older age, you can pay her back for all of that energy and work that she did for you when you were younger. And from her husband, much of the same. Her husband rises and praises her, expresses love for her, shows appreciation for her. Isn't this a wonderful picture of what husbands today do and what children today do? Or again, is this a little bit depressing? This can be depressing when we look back in our past and we see days that we have forgotten and we have neglected to do this. Husbands, maybe there have been some days where you have not expressed your love and said that you love your wife so much, and you say to yourself, well, I'm the strong, silent type. Or she knows it. I've bought her a number of things down through the years. She should know that I love her. Maybe there have been days where you have been so self-absorbed in your schedule, what you had to do at work or around the house, and you almost forgot about her life and communication with her and nurturing your relationship with her. And if we would ask her, would she consider herself a beloved partner or the maid? Many days we have fallen short. And what about children with their own mothers? There have been many days, of course, that ingratitude has been all over the house. Ingratitude for all of that food put on the table, or the time we expected her to give us a ride. We expected her to tend to us when we were sick and go get our medicine. Maybe there have been some days where, with our God-given eyes, we have rolled them at her and we have said, I don't like what you're telling me at this moment. Maybe there's many days where we've given a look that could kill, or where some hateful words even came out of our mouth when we were being disciplined. Maybe there have been days where children have not expressed affection for their mother. And what about when she gets older? If your mother has been older and needed some help, were there days where you did not check in on her or visit her or ask her how things were going? And when mother got very elderly, perhaps, are there days where you were feeling a little bit impatient with her and bossy with her instead of loving and cheerful toward her? Sadly, there are some people in our world who really didn't realize what their mothers meant to them until they were gone. Therefore, today we also have to thank God for everybody here for forgiveness. We have to thank the Lord that when he went to that cross, he also died for those sins of a lack of love, a lack of appreciation, and ingratitude for this wonderful position of godly wife and mother that he has established. We can also thank the Lord that Jesus, as our substitute, was the obedient, perfect son. That when he was 12 years old, the Gospels tell us he went down to Nazareth and he was obedient to them. We also hear on the cross, as he was even suffering and dying, that he provided for his mother at that time. The Apostle John was there. He said, woman, behold your son. Son, this is your mother. And it says John took her in and took care of her after that. Even at that time, Jesus was the ideal, perfect son. And he was that for you and for me when we did not do these things. And then we can also thank God that perhaps we have another chance. That we have another chance now to show respect and love toward our wives, toward our mothers, if they are still in the world. And at the very least, to pray to God, giving thanks for them, and also giving thanks for this position that has a lot of good in our world and godly influence. So today, let's thank God for godly wives and mothers. And as we do that, may we realize these amazing characteristics that she possesses, that the Lord has wired her to have. And then may also remember the honor and respect that she deserves as we interact with her in our daily lives. And as our nation celebrates Mother's Day today, may we not make it a one-day-a-year thing, but rather a constant thing as we continue to give thanks and pray for godly wives and mothers. Amen. Please rise.